Forget what you think you know about how women think. You've read the articles and watched the videos, but you're still confused. Here's why. You overthink, she underthinks, about you. That text you analyzed for an hour. She probably forgot to reply while watching Netflix. Women aren't sitting around dissecting your every move. They're just reacting in the moment. Logic doesn't create attraction. You can't negotiate desire. Listing your qualities is like presenting a resume for a job that hires based on feeling. She feels first, justifies later. Nice is boring. Reliability is good, but predictability kills passion. Women are drawn to challenge and men with their own purpose, not satellites that orbit them. She doesn't want a solution, she wants to be heard. When she vents about her day, she's connecting, not asking for a fix. Your job is to understand, not to solve. Her mood isn't your weather to control. Her openness is influenced by her work, friends, hormones, and lunch. You can't make it sunny all the time, you can only check the forecast and act accordingly. The secret? Stop trying to understand women and start understanding that they are different. Focus on being a compelling person, not a perfect pursuer. The rest follows. The human desire to understand the opposite sex is timeless. In the modern era, this quest has spawned a lucrative industry of dating coaches, pickup artists, and self-help gurus, each promising the secret key to the female mind. Many men approach this challenge armed with logical frameworks, behavioral hacks, and analytical models, treating interaction like a complex puzzle to be solved. This approach is fundamentally flawed. The reality is that understanding women is not about memorizing a script or decoding secret signals. It is about recognizing that female psychology, like all human psychology, operates on a different set of priorities and processing mechanisms than the classic male model. The journey to genuine understanding requires discarding the map of your own mind and learning to navigate a new terrain with empathy and awareness. This deconstruction is not an indictment of either gender, but a guide to bridging a pervasive psychological gap. It aims to replace frustration with clarity, and strategic manipulation with authentic connection. 1. The foundational error, projecting the male psychological framework. The single greatest barrier to understanding women is the unconscious act of psychological projection. Men, socialized to be problem solvers and systemizers, naturally apply their own cognitive blueprint to everyone else. They assume that the internal worlds of women are governed by the same principles: linear logic, direct communication, and cause and effect reasoning. The fix-it paradigm versus the connect-it paradigm. The male fix-it paradigm: the world is a series of problems to be analyzed and solved. Communication is a tool for efficiently transferring information to achieve a solution. Emotions are often seen as variables that complicate an otherwise logical equation. The female connect-it paradigm: the world is a web of relationships and emotions to be navigated and harmonized. Communication is a primary tool for building connection, fostering intimacy, and processing emotional states. Logic is often employed to make sense of and narrate the emotional landscape. When a man uses his fix-it map to navigate a connect-it territory, he consistently gets lost. He misinterprets emotional sharing as a request for solutions, sees nuanced communication as cryptic, and perceives changing emotional states as irrational. The first step toward understanding is the profound acceptance that women are not speaking a more complicated version of the same language, they are often speaking a different language altogether. 2. Key psychological principles in action. 1. The retrospective narrative principle. This is a critical concept for dismantling the belief that you can logically argue your way into a woman's affections. The mechanism: emotion precedes logic. A woman will first feel an emotion, attraction, discomfort, trust, suspicion, and then, her brain will automatically work to construct a logical, post hoc narrative to explain and justify that feeling. Example: in attraction, she feels a spark of attraction during a conversation. Later, she tells her friends, "He's so funny and confident," or, we have such great chemistry. These are the logical reasons her mind has generated to explain the pre-existing feeling of attraction. The feeling was the cause, not the result, of the list. The practical implication, presenting a resume of your virtues, I have a good job, I'm reliable, I'm a nice guy, is targeting the narrative-building part of her brain before the emotional trigger has been pulled. It's like trying to sell a car by detailing the warranty before the customer has even sat in the driver's seat and felt the thrill of the engine. You must first create the positive emotional experience, the logical justifications will follow naturally. 2. The principle of contextual fluidity. Men often fall into analysis paralysis, obsessing over the meaning of a single interaction as if it exists in a vacuum. This principle states that a woman's behavior and mood are products of her total life context. The weather pattern analogy: you cannot control the weather. You can only check the forecast and dress appropriately. A woman's openness, mood, and responsiveness are influenced by 1,000 factors: stress from work, a conflict with a friend, lack of sleep, hormonal cycles, a personal success, or a memory triggered by a song. You are one cloud in her vast sky. The practical implication: stop personalizing everything. If she seems distant, it is statistically far more likely to be about a bad day at the office than a calculated rejection of you. This understanding liberates you from unnecessary anxiety and prevents you from applying high-pressure solutions to situations that have nothing to do with you. 3. The attraction paradox: stated preferences versus demonstrated triggers. This paradox highlights the chasm between what women consciously believe they want and what unconsciously triggers the feeling of attraction. Stated preferences: these are the conscious, socially conditioned, and logical desires. When asked, women will often list traits like kindness, a good job, honesty, and a sense of humor. These are genuine preferences for a long-term partner but are poor predictors of initial, visceral attraction. Demonstrated triggers: these are the nonverbal, behavioral cues that signal high value and trigger attraction subconsciously. They include independence and purpose: a man with his own mission, passions, and social circle signals that he is not needy. Neediness is the ultimate attraction killer because it signals low value. Emotional strength: the ability to remain calm under pressure, handle her emotions without being overwhelmed, and maintain healthy boundaries is perceived as strength. Unpredictability versus predictability: this does not mean being flaky or unreliable. It means having a life that is dynamic and interesting. A man whose entire world becomes predictable and centered on her becomes boring. The human brain is wired to pay attention to novel and dynamic stimuli. The practical implication: the nice guy, who molds his entire identity to fit a woman's stated preferences often fails because in his effort to please, he demonstrates a lack of the very traits that trigger attraction: independence, strength, and challenge. He becomes a satellite in her orbit, and satellites are taken for granted. 3. Navigating the communication divide. This is perhaps the most common and frustrating area of misunderstanding, rooted directly in the fix-it versus connect-it paradigm. The male goal: solve the problem. When a man hears a problem, his brain immediately routes to the solution-finding module. He listens for the key facts, diagnoses the issue, and offers a step-by-step plan to resolve it. For him, this is the ultimate form of care and support. The female goal: process the emotion. When a woman shares a problem, she is often engaging in troubles talk. Her primary goal is to verbally process her feelings, feel understood, and establish emotional rapport. The problem itself is the context for the emotional connection. The classic, painful miscommunication. She, venting about a difficult coworker, and then he had the nerve to take credit for my project in the meeting. I was so furious I could barely speak. He, applying the fix-it paradigm: you should have immediately spoken up. Next time, send a follow-up email to the whole team documenting your contributions. That's what I do. She, hearing, you handled that wrong. Your feelings are invalid. Here's a cold, logical solution that ignores the emotional betrayal I just experienced. What she needed, the connected response, "Wow, that is so incredibly frustrating and unfair. I can't believe he did that. You must have felt so angry and disrespected." The connected response validates her emotional reality. It makes her feel heard and supported. Once that emotional connection is established, she may then be open to practical solutions. But the emotional validation must come first. 4. The psychology of attraction and relationships. Hypergamy and mate selection. Hypergamy, often misunderstood as greed, is a well-documented evolutionary and sociological tendency to seek partners who are of equal or higher status, socially, financially, intellectually, or in terms of character. This is not a conscious, mercenary calculation but a deep-seated drive for security and quality offspring. A woman wants to look up to her partner, to feel that he is a capable and respected man who can be a strong partner in life. The scarcity principle. Value is intrinsically linked to scarcity. A man who is always available, who cancels his plans for her, and who has no other social options signals low status. A man with a full, compelling life, friends, hobbies, ambitions, is by definition less available. This scarcity does not mean playing games, it means genuinely having a life that you value independently of a relationship. This demonstrates high value and makes your time and attention a prize to be earned, not a given to be expected. The preselection effect. Human beings are social proof machines. A man who is already liked and respected by other women is pre-vetted. This signals to a woman's subconscious that he has passed the screening process of her peers, reducing her perceived risk. This is why men in relationships often receive more attention. Conclusion, from decoding to connecting. The journey to understanding female psychology is not about acquiring a bag of tricks to manipulate outcomes. It is a journey of personal growth and expanded perception. The ultimate goal is to replace the flawed, decoding model with a connecting model. This requires cultivating emotional intelligence, develop the ability to identify, understand, and manage not only your own emotions but also to perceive and respond to the emotions of others. Practicing empathetic listening, listen to understand her emotional state, not just to gather facts for your solution. Ask yourself, what is she feeling right now? Building a sovereign life, the most attractive thing a man can do is to build a life he loves. A life of purpose, passion, and self-respect is magnetic. It is the ultimate demonstration of the traits that trigger attraction naturally and authentically. Releasing the need for control, accept that you cannot control another person's feelings. You can only control your own actions, reactions, and the quality of the energy you bring to an interaction. The paradigm shift, from decoding women to understanding humanity. The pursuit of understanding the opposite sex often begins as a quest for a decoder ring, a set of secret rules that, once mastered, will unlock predictable results. Men spend countless hours analyzing texts, rehearsing conversations, and dissecting behaviors, operating under the assumption that women are a complex cipher to be cracked. This approach, while born from a genuine desire to connect, is fundamentally exhausting and ultimately flawed. It treats interaction as a game to be won rather than a human experience to be shared. However, a profound liberation occurs when you abandon this futile mission. When you stop trying to decode women and start striving to understand human psychology, the perceived mystery that once seemed so impenetrable simply evaporates. This is not because people become less complex, but because you have traded a broken map for a reliable compass. You are no longer trying to memorize every tree in the forest, you have learned to navigate by the stars. The demystification of behavior. The decoding mindset is rooted in the belief that female behavior is arbitrary and uniquely cryptic. This perspective instantly creates an us versus them dynamic, framing women as enigmatic puzzles to be solved. But when you pivot to studying core principles of human psychology, principles that apply to men and women alike, patterns begin to emerge from the chaos. You stop seeing a woman's changing mood as a personal slight or a calculated test and start recognizing it as a perfectly normal human response to context. Is she less responsive today? Instead of spiraling into anxiety, what did I do wrong? You access your knowledge of human stress responses. You might consider, she mentioned a big deadline at work, this is likely a reflection of that pressure, not a verdict on my value. This is the essence of moving from personalization to understanding. You begin to see the universal human needs for respect, security, validation, and autonomy playing out in her actions, just as they do in yours. The behavior is no longer a secret code, it's a legible expression of internal states, a language you are now learning to speak. The emergence of calm and competence. This new framework replaces anxiety with calm and confusion with competence. The decoding man is perpetually on edge, because his success depends on saying the perfect thing at the perfect time, a nearly impossible standard. He is reactive, his emotional state held hostage by every external cue. In contrast, the man who understands human psychology operates from a place of grounded stability. He knows that his value is not contingent on a single interaction. He understands the principles of attachment styles, the role of self-esteem in conflict, and the human need for personal space. This knowledge grants him a quiet confidence. He doesn't need to control the conversation because he is competent at navigating it. He can handle silence without panicking, disagreement without crumbling, and emotional expression without being overwhelmed. This emotional stability is not just attractive, it is the bedrock of genuine trust and intimacy. People are naturally drawn to those who are not easily shaken, because they project a strength that feels safe to rely upon. The fundamental shift in focus, from performance to authenticity. This is the most critical transformation, the shift from, how can I make her like me, to, is there a genuine connection here worth exploring? The first question is rooted in lack and performance. It turns every interaction into a job interview where you are the anxious applicant, desperately tailoring your presentation to fit a perceived job description. It forces you to wear a mask, to hide your perceived flaws, and to seek validation from an external source. This is a draining and unsustainable charade. Eventually, the mask will slip, or the constant pressure to perform will breed resentment. The second question, is there a genuine connection here, is rooted in abundance and curiosity. It presumes that you are a whole person with your own standards, preferences, and boundaries. You are not just a candidate being evaluated, you are also the interviewer. This reframe empowers you to be authentically yourself. You ask questions to truly understand her character, values, and worldview. You share your own thoughts and passions not to impress, but to see if they resonate. You are assessing compatibility, not just seeking approval. This shift transforms the entire dynamic. Instead of a one-sided performance, it becomes a mutual exploration. The pressure vanishes because the goal is no longer to win someone over, but to make a joint discovery. You are both figuring out if your lives, values, and visions for the future can harmoniously coexist. Sometimes the answer will be no, and that is not a failure, but a successful discovery that saves both parties time and heartache. The universal application, beyond romantic pursuits. While this perspective is transformative in dating, its power extends far beyond. This same shift, from manipulating outcomes to understanding human drivers, is the key to success in all facets of human relationships. In the workplace, the manager who understands the psychological principles of motivation, recognition, and autonomy will always be more effective than the one who simply memorizes a list of management hacks. He doesn't decode his employees, he understands what makes people feel valued and productive. In friendships, the person who can listen with empathy, understanding that their friend often needs emotional validation more than practical solutions, builds deeper, more resilient bonds. They don't decode their friends venting, they understand the human need to feel heard. In family dynamics, recognizing that a parent's criticism may stem from fear or a sibling's distance may come from insecurity allows for compassion to replace conflict. You stop reacting to the surface-level behavior and start addressing the underlying human need. The most powerful tool. Ultimately, this paradigm shift is the most powerful tool you can possess. The decoder ring promises a cheap shortcut but delivers only anxiety and superficial results. The compass of human psychology offers a more challenging path. It requires study, self-awareness, and empathy, but it leads to authentic connection, personal peace, and profound competence in navigating the world. It moves you from being a passive actor, anxiously awaiting acceptance, to being a grounded architect of your own